country needs. Our country needs someone to run it like a business. You getting back to like the old way. People working, not everybody on welfare, not everybody living off the system. Um, I just like Trump.
Okay.
I don't agree with everything Trump does, and I think he needs to stay off Twitter and he needs to tone it down. And nobody likes to hear how great he is, including me. But he does do a lot of good things, and he does have a big heart.
Okay. Big heart. Sounds good. All right, let's go through those. So, your first point, saying that he's, a businessman. Okay, he definitely is. He owns a lot of businesses. He's a billionaire. He's a businessman, that's for sure. And you said that, our country needs a businessman. So, our economy could be thriving again and people could be better off. Now, listen, I couldn't agree with you more by saying that I think the survival and flourishment of the American economy is of utmost importance because it directly impacts the quality of the lives of you, me, and everybody else around us. 100%. But I don't think this businessman is the man for the job. And I say that because even though he has all this business experience, owns a shit ton of them, that hasn't translated into real material results for you and me. When we look at the outcomes of his tariffs, of his trade wars, of the big beautiful bill, we don't see the economy getting better, we only see it getting worse. Last year, in 2025 in fact, we had the worst jobs report since 2003 if we ignore recessions because of the instability and insecurity created by the big beautiful bill and his tariffs. We also had the highest level of unemployment and the most layoffs since the pandemic. And we've only seen a decreasing level of business investment into our manufacturers for every quarter he's been president, when it was only going up and up and up under Biden.
I agree with you on some of that. But, I go back to like thinking when Obama was in, we were forced to take Obamacare. And we were told we could keep our insurance that we currently have. That didn't pan out. I wish Trump would work on healthcare reform. That would be great. I used to work in healthcare. Jobs, there are a shit ton of jobs out there, but nobody wants to work because everybody's got their hand out for the government to help them. I mean, we see it in our area. Do I think Trump needs to tone down? Yes. I agree with you on saying, sometimes he does not seem like the right man for the job. But for the most part, yeah, unemployment is terrible. And the tariffs, I think the tariffs will take a long time to work to our advantage. I mean, we're just getting into that now, and it's in a big uproar. But I think if he could have had his first term without lawsuits and staying in court, we would be in a lot better shape than we are now. But he couldn't be a president his first term because the Democrats wouldn't leave him alone.
Yeah. Okay. The first point I'll make here in response is I claim the reason why unemployment is going up is because businesses are going down. You're claiming the reason why unemployment is going up is because of the work ethic and morale of our citizens is going down because of social safety nets. I'd say there's a way we could determine who's right because we can't both be right. One of us is right and one of us is wrong. Do you agree?
I agree. I mean, Everybody's got their opinion.
So here's the tool that I would use to determine who's right. Layoffs. Because if somebody is losing their job because they got fired, that's an example of a person that wants to work but isn't. Right? That's not an example of somebody that's freeloading off the government. They had a job, they got fired. And last year, we saw the most layoffs since the pandemic. 1.3 million layoffs. So I think I'm right on this one. That unemployment's being driven by companies going down because a lot of the unemployed people that are increasing the unemployment rate are not unemployed because they're freeloaders, but unemployed because they got fired. Another data point we could also use to prove this, is the fact that we also had the most manufacturing bankruptcies since 2010 last year. So it wasn't just like companies were getting larger and becoming more productive and didn't need their employees anymore because they replaced them with automation. The companies went out of business. 1.3 million layoffs and the most bankruptcies since 2010. Companies are going out of business and people are losing their jobs and the unemployment rate is going up.
Okay, now, why do you think these businesses are going out?
Good question. So the first reason why a bunch of manufacturers went bankrupt last year is because those manufacturers were reliant on two things. Okay? The first thing would be not importing the goods that they sell, because they're an American manufacturer, but rather importing some of the raw materials they would use to create the goods they sell. But then those raw materials jumped in price by like 20% overnight. The raw materials from China increased in price by like 200% overnight. And it wasn't sustainable. They couldn't stay in business. They shut down. Now, the second reason why a lot of manufacturers went bankrupt is because it takes investment to keep them running in many scenarios. A bunch of manufacturers are not profitable for the first 5 years. So they are reliant on investment to keep them, floating in the water. But for the first time in years, we saw investment into American manufacturing plummet. Why do we see it plummet? Because investors were so speculative of the market. Because one day Trump's imposing 125% tariffs over here. The next day they're on all the countries. The next day they're not on all the countries. The next day he's increasing them by 150% on China and Mexico. The next day he's reducing them on Argentina, then giving the money. Then the next day he's increasing them to 25% on the EU, then taking them away from Switzerland because the leader of Switzerland spoke to him nice over the phone. That creates an unstable, unpredictable market. Investors don't like that. They make less investments. Manufacturers rely on those investments. They no longer have that money. They go out of business. They fire all the employees.
Okay, I agree with you on most of that. Yeah, the tariff thing has been a shit show. It's not, it needs to be one tariff and be done. It's not. It's all over the map, just like you said.
Now it's getting worse because the Supreme Court ruled them as illegal, and now the Trump administration has to refund $166 billion from what they collected.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of a really negligent decision of Trump? Like, I'm not saying that when he signed those tariffs into effect, he knew they were illegal. I'm saying when he signed those tariffs into effect, he didn't know they were legal. Okay? And the repercussions of that are immense.
Well, yeah, and it shows.
Right?
But
it's not a good decision. Maybe that's a reason not to support him.
No.
Okay.
No, I still think that his ideology, he has good ideas. He has a jacked up way of going about them. The tariffs would be great if implemented, I guess, the right way. All countries have tariffs.
Yeah.
Most.
Yeah.
Why are the Democrats so down on Trump imposing tariffs?
Yeah.
When it generates money.
Listen, well, they haven't generated money. They've just lost us money because of the economic productivity that we've lost because of all the manufacturers that have shut down and the people that have been laid off. And then even the money that was directly paid to the government by the tariffs is now being refunded. So you said, why are the Democrats against them if they're generating us money? Because they're not generating us money, for one. The second thing that I'll say is that you're right, a lot of countries impose tariffs on other countries. True. Because tariffs are not always a bad thing. But in order for a tariff to be a good thing, you have to ensure that you're implementing that tariff, not because of wrathful revenge or a show of power, but rather because of the predicted economic outcomes. Donald Trump is not implementing his tariffs because of the predicted economic outcomes. He doesn't even know they're legal. He's implementing his tariffs as a form of soft power to control what other countries do for him.
Let's face it, most of us aren't going to set foot on Mars.
I'm on Mars! It's freezing. I'm going to go back to the module.
Some things are out of reach.
I got this.
But a card with access to exceptional benefits isn't one of them. Welcome to the Credit One Bank American Express Suite.
Once weekly Mounjaro.
Once weekly Mounjaro.
Well, I think as far as the tariffs that he's implemented, some, maybe most, I don't know, some were to try to force the hand of manufacturers that have left the United States to go elsewhere for cheap labor, try to force them to come back here.
Yeah, yeah. And listen, I see the thought process there. Manufacturers have left to get cheaper labor, more raw materials to build their goods to other countries. Okay, we're no longer benefiting from that. That's not helping the American economy as much as it would be if they were here. So maybe if we turn around and post these massive tariffs on them, they'll see that they actually have a larger profit incentive to operate in America compared to operating elsewhere. Okay, I see your logic. Okay, the issue with that logic is to build manufacturing plants in America, it takes billions of dollars of investment, sometimes multiple millions in most cases, and it takes like 4 to 7 years to get from the planning phases to the building phases. Then you have a manufacturing plant that's running well. And if the tariffs are not reliably implemented for the long term, i.e. they know that they will exist for more than 7 years, okay? Because remember, they have to exist while they're building the plant, and then they have to exist for a long while after they build the plant and it's running to reap that profit. Then there's no point. And Donald Trump's tariffs are not going to stay around for more than his administration, all right? In fact, they've already been getting cut during his administration. Liberation Day, there's tariffs on every other country in the world. 2 months later, we only had tariffs on China, Argentina, Mexico, and Canada. and then 1 month later, we had tariffs on nobody because the Supreme Court ruled them as illegal. So because they were not long-term tariffs, but just short-term tariffs, and they keep on popping up on random countries and random places, and we'll probably see that more in the future, there's no real incentive for these companies to spend the millions to move back here to take 7 years to build the facilities, because they're just going to wait them out. They know they're not going to stick around. They know they're not going to be there forever, or that's at least what the most probable outcome is, because that's what has happened for the last year and a half.
But don't you agree that a president has to start somewhere to try to get businesses back? I mean...
Go ahead.
Somebody's got to start somewhere to try to get this back. If not, all these companies, all the manufacturers, yeah, they're going to leave. I mean, we've seen it over and over and over.
Okay.
Just like when you go to buy a refrigerator, you've got to make sure you get one that's manufactured here in the United States, or you can't get parts.
Yeah.
Or nobody around works on them.
Well, I think you're experiencing tunnel vision on the subject, where there's maybe 1,000 different ways that we could drive more manufacturers back to America. And you've isolated your tunnel vision on the one way of tariffs that has a really terrible track record, doesn't seem to be working, only seems to be hurting us. But because it's Trump's policy and you like Trump, you're going to keep that isolated tunnel vision on the tariffs. Well, let's expand our vision here. There's many other better ways to bring manufacturers back, like subsidies, subsidizing chip producers, giving them the money to build their manufacturing plants. Seems crazy? Not really. Why? Well, because we'll get that money back. Because when they build the manufacturing plant here, ultimately they're going to sell what they produce, and then ultimately they're going to pay taxes on what they sell. So we get that money back. That's what Biden did with the Chips and Science Act. That's what Biden did with the infrastructure bill. And that's why under Biden, we saw the largest increase in investment into American manufacturing in the private sector, because it was influenced by the public investment into other companies. So it kind of like set forth this butterfly effect, where when the government helped out a couple companies to start building here, and they were, having glorious results, a bunch of private companies with no help from the government started building here too at a level we've never seen before. And that worked. Definitely worked better than what Trump is doing right now.
Okay, I agree with you on that.
That's huge. What you just said is huge. Because if we're now agreeing, irrespective of the line between us, Republican, Democrat, that the Biden-Harris administration was doing a lot better at driving manufacturing back to America than Trump, then maybe I think we just set our political difference aside and we say we need more of that. We need less of what we have under Trump. We need more of what we had under Biden. And that right there is a damn compelling reason to not support Trump.
No, now, that is one reason that you could say I'm not a fan of. But there are, all right, I'll go to this. I live in a state that is red with a Democratic governor.
Ooh, I think I did an interview. Kentucky?
Yes.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
So, I did too. I liked him so much that I voted for him his last term. And I'm a diehard Republican. And then as soon as I voted for him, oh, how he did a complete turnaround. And he has took off on his rants. And I used to think he was so split. He didn't see it Republican, Democrat. He saw us as a whole. And now he has flipped the script. So I regret that decision.
No.
But if
so
there's
it has to do like
there
who he
was
is as
a
a
good
person.
Democratic nominee running for president, I'm not opposed to voting Democratic if there was somebody that I believed in and thought could do a good job.
Okay. So it seems like you kind of stopped supporting Andy over who he was as a person. Maybe he was launching too many unfair attacks at Trump. Okay. Can we evaluate who Trump is as a person? Would you still support Trump as president if you knew that he had sexually exploited naked women and boasted about it and called it funny?
Listen, I know what you're talking about. And maybe he did. And I won't go into the, look what the Democrats have done, because they've done bad shit too. And that's about all I'm going to say on that. I mean, he has said some off the wall, raunchy things.
Well, it's not about what he said. It's about what he's done. If he actually sexually exploited naked women, barged into...
Are you talking about him walking in on the pageant?
Yes.
When they're changing and
naked,
this,
yes.
that, and the other?
Yeah. If he can't respect the consent of women and girls, he can't respect the bank account of the average American. I think that the consent of a woman is more meaningful than the bank account of the average American. Your self-ownership over your body is much more personal than how much money you have, even if you don't have a lot. So, because of that, I just don't think that this is a man who could effectively govern. First off, all right? If you're like willing to like barge into somebody's dressing room and look at their naked body to get sexual arousal or whatever, and you just don't give a fuck about them or care about their consent or that they might not want that, you lack a certain foundational moral value of caring for other people. And I think that foundational moral value is necessary to be a good president. You gotta care about other people. You represent 340 million of them. And that's just the first argument. The second argument is, well, this is a moral crisis we have on our hands. Our representatives are supposed to be better than that. That is so far below the Oval.
Okay. So, yes, he has probably, I'll say probably, because I don't know, I wasn't there. He's probably done things as you speak, or maybe, but I think, and we all know, anybody who listens to Donald Trump talk knows he loves to brag.
Imagine creating a fresh branded survey in as little as 30 seconds. Well, that's SurveyMonkey with a boost from AI.
Now, do I believe everything he says? No, I think some things are said in bragging, like Howard Stern or whoever, because he is a boastful person and he likes to make himself look bigger than what he is sometimes.
Okay. I agree. Trump loves to brag.
Yes, and you're talking about morals and values. Listen, we've had people run our country that have done despicable things to women. Talk about children. You had Biden talking about children rubbing his hairy legs and silly things like that. And then you had Clinton, who wanted to do disgraceful things to Monica Lewinsky with a cigar. in the Oval Office. I mean, we've had a lot of bad stuff happen. We can't just focus on what one man has done. I mean, they're all, and we don't even know a fraction of what really goes on. That's just something that's brought to light.
Yeah. So the first point I'll make here is I agreed with you that Trump is a very braggy guy, but when men brag about things, it's to make themselves look better to those around them. And the reason why you don't hear men bragging about rape, SA, sexual exploitation, when in all reality they're innocent, is because that's not a lie that you'd tell somebody to make yourself look better to them. That's why we know that although Trump lies a lot and although Trump brags a lot, he wasn't lying or bragging when he said that he'd sexually exploit these beauty pageant contestants, because there's no incentive to lie or brag. Now, second of all, you said, well, okay, Donald Trump does have a really bad character. Maybe he did sexually exploit those beauty pageant contestants. Maybe he did rape E. Jean Carroll. Maybe Jane Doe number 4 was trafficked by Epstein to him. But we've had a lot of other bad presidents that have done bad things too, like Biden with the hairy legs or Clinton with Monica Lewinsky. Listen, if I believed that Clinton or Biden engaged in sexual violence, which is an umbrella term that includes rape, SA, sexual abuse, and sexual exploitation on top of other things, I would not support them as president. I wouldn't.
Okay. Well, I mean, and Joe Biden, really and truly, that's just an opinion. People can, think whatever, but I personally think he was a creep. Now, do I think Donald Trump is a creep? I guess in certain ways, yes. Do I think he sexually assaulted the Carol lady? Absolutely not. I would never be convinced of that.
Well, okay. All right. I could convince you. It's easy. She claims she had a dress with her DNA in it that would prove Trump met her, because Trump claimed he never met her. Prove Trump raped her because it's the dress that she wore when she was raped. Then the court turned around and they confirmed it had male DNA on it. And then they asked Trump, hey, bro, can you give us your DNA to see if it's the same DNA that's on this dress? And he said no. For 2.5 years. Why? If he was innocent, just why? If I was falsely accused of raping somebody and they're like genuinely nuts, which is the way you guys like the Bainey Jean Carroll to be, and they claim that they had this dress that they wore when I raped them and it has my DNA in it, and I knew I never met him, oh my God. When it would take a moment of thought to turn around and give my DNA to the court to prove my innocence. Especially if I'm running for president. Just being in that trial, even if he wasn't found guilty, would make him look bad. Definitely reduce his chance of winning, even though he did. Right? If I was in that position of running for president, I'd want it wrapped up and done with today with a damning exoneration. I would give my DNA so fast. He didn't.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. But if you go back and from his first term, look at how much time he spent in court over bogus bull, and you know it. I mean, over Michael Cohen and his stupid crap.
Michael Cohen was just a witness to his 34 counts of business fraud, which he was found guilty of.
Who hasn't went to the bank? Well, I mean, when you go to the bank, I mean, they're going to say, they'll do an appraisal. What do whatever. The bank was paid back. The bank was in court and said they had no problem with any dealings with him.
Oh, Michael Cohen wasn't a witness to the business fraud of, lying about the valuation of the properties. He was a witness to the Stormy Daniels criminal felony conviction case.
Oh, yeah, Stormy Daniels.
I don't know if we're getting any headway here, unfortunately. Let me try to find another question to ask you. If Biden basically called for the execution of 7 sitting Republicans in Congress when he was president, would you argue any reasonable American should stop supporting Biden? Because that is a threat to our democratic institutions.
You're literally wearing my shirt, yeah, so Really? $200 to be that family? You're better off at Topgolf, where you and your family can have a good time at a fair price. No argument there.
You know, Trump, he says a lot of things, and he does a lot of things, but I feel like he has had more Democrats call upon American people to eliminate him. I mean, hell, he was shot at.
Like? What Democrats have done that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, they don't come right out and say, okay, somebody should kill him, but, you know, he needs to be stopped at whatever cost.
Well, listen, if a Democrat did say that Trump should be hung, should that Democrat be kicked out of politics?
No, I don't have an opinion. I don't know.
Oh, come on.
mean,
it's so clear. You hate, you know, you were just drilling on the Democrats so hard, right? If let's say, if the most powerful Democrat in this country said Trump should be hung, hang him, for he is a traitor, should he be allowed to continue to sit in his seat? Would you ever support somebody that said, hang Trump, he's a traitor? Would you ever support somebody like that in your life?
I mean, or at some point, logic has to come across people's minds and say, do we really hang people? No. It's figuratively speaking. And do I think the Democrats, when they holler Trump has to be stopped at whatever cost or whatever, do I think that they're the reason he got shot? I don't know. Do I think they don't need to be in politics?
This isn't working either, because clearly you know where I'm going with this, and it's the fact that Donald Trump called for the execution of 6 sitting Democrats in Congress. All right, so that's not going anywhere. The Carol rape case isn't going anywhere. So sexual exploitation's not going anywhere. Oh boy. All right, listen, I'm going to pass the ball back in your court. Now that we've gone through economics, what's the biggest reason why you support Trump?
I feel like Trump has... All right, I'll go back to when I watched Trump when he was a very young man on Oprah Winfrey Show. And Oprah asked him if he was talking politics. Oprah asked him if he would ever run for president. And he said, if I felt like the country needed me, yes, I would. I had never voted in an election in my life, but I said at that point, if he ever ran, because I followed him and always listened to him when he was on television or whatever, read articles, I said if he ever ran, I would go vote for him. That was the first time I ever voted. Was his
Not
first
because
time.
of his policies, or just because he said that, you know, I'd run if it was for the betterment of the country 30 years ago?
Oh, no, because of the way he carries himself, the way he...
Carries himself? Dude, he carries himself by calling Democrats terrorists, calling for their execution, starting the wars in Iran after he promised no new wars, spiking the price of gas by over $1 in a month, highest since the Vietnam War, calling himself Jesus, attacking the Pope, threatening to genocide 90 million, right? Lying over 30,000 confirmed times.
And
well, the Pope just read the gospel. The Pope just read the gospel. I mean, the Pope is right to detest Trump's war in Iran. I could tell you why. Are you a Christian?
Yes, I am.
Have you ever heard of Christian war theory?
Christian war theory? No, I don't believe I have.
So this came about after some of the bloodiest parts of, the history of the Vatican as a way to justify war in consideration of their pacifist Christian beliefs, the whole turn the other cheek thing. And Christian war theory, in a nutshell, says that before you go to war with a nation, you must first exhaust all diplomatic channels of negotiation. And the reason why the Pope is shitting on Trump for his war in Iran is because that's not what Trump did. He didn't exhaust all negotiation with Iran. He told a lie, said they were an imminent nuclear threat when they weren't, and hit him with some tomahawks because of pressure from Israel. Of course the Pope should blast unjust war.
Okay, now listen. This whole no new war, I hear this from my son every day. So that strikes a nerve with me. Here's my opinion on that. All right, he did say no new wars. But are we supposed to sit back until another 9/11 happens and then say, oh, well, maybe we should have done something before then?
So your argument
You
is...
cannot talk to Iran. Those people are crazy. You cannot talk to those type of people. They've negotiated. They've tried.
Well, they did.
are a
They successfully
nation.
negotiated. First and foremost, we need to understand why Iran doesn't like America. And I think the IRGC sucks. They're really bad. They're terrorists. Okay? But Iran doesn't like America because in the 50s, we couped their democratically elected leaders. Okay? And we installed our own leader. In the 70s, revolution took place. The Islamic extremists overtook that revolution and then empowered themselves. 73, 74, we shot down a plane over the country, went into a hospital, killed 50 people. Okay? 80s, we sold the military equipment. Okay, we said, hey, guess what, guys? We're going to be friends. Let's be allies. Give us $400 million for all this military equipment. They paid us. We just scammed them, never gave them the equipment. Like, it's unreal. It's like legit unreal. And then under Obama, you know, he came back around. He said, hey, listen, I'm sorry that we scammed you. I'm sorry that we couped your leader. But now we want to strike a deal to ensure that you're never going to have nukes. And they said, okay, we'll deal. All right. That's where the JCPOA came from. A deal that prevented Iran from ever having nukes. Trump walks into office, does the same thing the CIA did with their coup, the same thing we did with scamming them for $400 million, pulled us outside of the JCPOA, and now, 10 years later, started a war with them. They're crazy, we're crazy. Now, second of all, you said they'd never be willing to negotiate. They did with Obama. Why did they negotiate with Obama, but they won't negotiate with Trump?
Obama gave them money.
Gave them their
ton
money.
of money.
He gave them their money. Remember those weapons that I said we scammed them for in the 80s? He
Yeah.
gave them their own money back. True. He gave them $400 million plus around 25 to 30 years of interest.
So the Democrats are all tore up about the no new wars, and that's all you hear everybody talk about. So
why aren't you?
in the
It's
same
killing people and making your gas cost more.
I'm really trying to improve my flexibility this year, so I asked ChatGPT to help me come up with a few stretches I can do every day. They're super easy to incorporate before or after a workout or before bed, and it only takes me 10 minutes.
Well, yeah, gas is up, but that's part of it.
What's being achieved? What's the goal? It's not like we're going to get rid of the IRGC. He's negotiating with the IRGC. Like, what's the goal?
All right, so go back to the no new wars. Say, for instance, Russia, China, or any foreign country attacks us because he said no new wars. Are we going to sit and let him attack us? Of course not.
If another country attacks us, okay, we neutralize the threat. Now, how did Iran attack us?
They did not.
With the fair use of defensive means. But how did Iran attack us?
They did not.
So we attacked them. So let's just apply your logic on them. Because not just America has a legitimate claim to defensive use of military exertion, so does every other country. Unfortunately, including Iran for you, right? So we attack them. Do they have the right to sit there and defend themselves?
Absolutely.
Okay. So Iran had the right to kill 13 servicemen and women?
We're in a battle, yes.
Right? And they only had that right because Donald Trump bombed them? So ultimately, Donald Trump gave the lives of 13 servicemen and women to Iran? And this is the president that you support? This guy is patriotic? Stands for a military? No way.
Oh, listen. On these wars and all this other bullshit.
Why's it bullshit?
All right, we can go back to Hillary Clinton and Biden when they left our people over there to get killed in Benghazi.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, you don't support them, right? Like, I don't understand why a lot of Trump supporters will try to, like, reach back to Biden or Hillary Clinton to make a point. by like saying all these bad things that you think they did. Those bad things that you think they did are the reasons why you don't support them as politicians. And you're acting as if they're equivalents to what Trump is doing today. Okay. So it seems like from your perspective, Trump is in the same bin as Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and Biden. If Trump is in the same bin as Hillary Clinton and Biden, you definitely wouldn't be a Trump supporter.
Are you a Biden supporter, or were you?
Yeah, I thought that Biden was definitely the best option we had.
Wasn't it his administration that left our people? Wasn't it his administration that pulled out of... Shit, I can't even remember
Afghanistan?
where. Yes.
Yeah, and wasn't it Trump's administration that organized the first 75% of it and struck a deal with the Taliban to let 5,000 Taliban prisoners out of Camp David when one of them inevitably was a suicide bomber that killed our servicemen and women? What, during the pull-up? Yes.
Okay, we lost servicemen then.
We're losing much more now.
Yeah, we're not going to get nowhere on that one. Trump, I do support. Do I support everything? No.
What about the letter he sent to Epstein?
Oh, you know that's fake.
Actually, the lawsuit got dropped last week. The reason why the lawsuit got dropped last week is because of the House subcommittee releasing the real letter last year. Trump claimed it's fake, sued him. Lawsuit's been dropped because Congress affirmed it's real. Why do you think it's fake?
I've not heard any of that.
Okay. Why do you think it's fake? Because Trump said so? Come on, that's unrealistic.
No, that's not why I think it's fake. It was told that was part of, and I can't remember exactly.
Birthday book to Epstein on his 50th in 2003.
Say that again.
It's a part of a birthday book compiled for Epstein for his 50th birthday in 2003.
Okay. You're saying this, I don't even know what the letter said. It had a drawing on it, didn't it?
Yeah, here it is. A voiceover. There must be more to life than everything. Donald. Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey. Nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald. We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey. Yes, we do come to think of it. Donald. Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey. As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Donald. A pal's a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. Outlined by the naked body of a little girl. I say it's a little girl because of the size of the breasts.
Okay. So that's your opinion, right?
Yeah. Now, why do you think this is fake?
I cannot remember where I read it, but it talked about when all that was released. I think Caroline Leavitt is actually the one I listened to that day, and said that it was fake. It was not. It was part of some. They couldn't determine where it came from.
Nope, they did. That's not true. It came from the birthday binder book. You could actually find this alongside the other 100 pages on the internet, Epstein File Library. We see the rest of it too. So they could determine where it came from. Caroline Leavitt did say it's fake, but, I mean, what's the evidence? How about this? If it was real, can we agree that Trump would say it's fake?
Listen,
it
could very well be real.
But even if
it is, what does it implicate?
What it implicates, okay, is a couple things. First, why is he sending this letter to Jeffrey with the outline of a naked girl? Second, what are they talking about here when they say there's more to life than having everything? Well, we know that Jeffrey thought the thing that was more to life than having everything like money was raping kids. Okay, that coincidentally lines up with the outline. Okay, Jeffrey says he's not going to say what it is. Okay, so it must be something taboo because they won't say it. Raping kids is pretty taboo. Okay, and then he says, may every day be another wonderful secret. Donald says that to Epstein at the end. Okay, well, what were Epstein's secrets? Raping kids.
Well, yes. I mean, that was part of his gig. But listening to you talk, is like, all right, you're bringing this up about Trump. Was Trump the only one that was implicated, or
only one that was implicated? You think Trump was implicated?
Meet One Track Jack. He's a credit wrecker. He doesn't know that by focusing on one type of credit, he can hurt his score. Don't be like One Track Jack. Learn how to avoid the wreckers at creditwreckers.com. Credit One Bank for what's ahead.
At this point, you're probably not avoiding therapy because of stigma. You're probably avoiding therapy because you've become very good at coping. So good that you stop noticing how heavy everything feels. As a therapist who goes to therapy herself, it's important to remember that your mind and body hold on to every stressor you don't have time to process. That stress shows up as exhaustion, irritability, shutdown, or feeling overloaded in a way you just can't explain. Therapy can help you start releasing it. Now, one barrier for many people is knowing how to choose the right therapist. BetterHelp removes that barrier. You answer a short questionnaire about your goals, preferences, and needs. BetterHelp reviews your responses and matches you with a therapist that fits what you're...
Oh.
You're saying that about the letter.
You're
is
right.
What I'm saying.
And that's not the only thing that implicates him. The fact that his DOJ illegally redacted his name a million times implicates him. The fact that his DOJ was forced to release all the Epstein files by December 17th of 2025 and they still haven't 6 months later implicates him. The fact that they concealed the names of co-conspirators implicates him. The fact that he was Epstein's best friend implicates him. The fact that he lied about the nature of his relationship with Epstein implicates him. You know, Donald Trump's been telling us since 2019 that he never knew what Epstein was doing, but now with the most recent batch of release of the Epstein files, we learned that he knew so much about what Epstein was doing, that he knew Ghislaine Maxwell was involved. And after Epstein was arrested in 2003, turned around, called the authorities, said, "Thank you for catching him. Also look into Ghislaine Maxwell." Okay, so that lie implicates him. The fact that anonymous Jane Doe number 4, who we know was trafficked by Epstein because she won millions of dollars in a lawsuit against Epstein, okay, in a settlement, privately in confidence told the FBI that she was also raped by Donald Trump implicates him. The fact that outside of the Epstein files, the court determined he raped a woman by the name of E. Jean Carroll implicates him. The fact that he admitted to barging into the dressing rooms of naked women and naked minors to look at their naked bodies implicates him. The fact that he hit on a 10-year-old girl in the 90s when she was walking up the escalator telling her that I'll be dating you in 10 years implicates him. All of these things implicate him. All of them. To an incredible degree. And if it was anybody but Trump, you'd agree. Like Eric Swalwell, 5 credible accusations. Do you agree with the rest of the GOP in Congress that wanted Eric Swalwell to resign?
I've not really paid that much attention to what his whole deal is. Getting back to, well, if the previous administration would have had any kind of information that would have implicated Trump to the point that he could have been prosecuted, do you not think they would have done that?
I don't. I don't, and I can tell you why.
Please do.
For the same reason that they didn't release anything about him at all in the Epstein files. They viewed the DOJ as completely independent of themselves. In fact, so independent that that's one of my disagreements with Biden. I wish he would have dipped his toe into the DOJ a little bit to expose Trump. But he didn't. I mean, the letter I just showed you is from the files. The credible accusation I named was from the files. The fact that he's been lying about the nature of his relationship since the early 2000s was in the files. The fact that Epstein's lawyer said Epstein was never kicked out of Mar-a-Lago was in the files. All of these things implicating Trump are in the files, and Biden never released them.
But nobody will ever convince me that if that administration, after everything they went through to try to oust Donald Trump, if they would have had that information, and they did have it,
then why didn't they release anything I just named?
But why didn't they?
Exactly, because they saw the DOJ's independent. They left it alone.
No. If they, the Russia hoax bullshit, they went to that extreme when they could have just...
Because the Russia hoax wasn't bullshit. They proved that his personal attorney had been personally colluding with Russia, and that Russia was interfering with the 2016 election to help Trump get elected, even if they couldn't prove that Trump himself was personally incriminated by it.
Oh, jeez.
That was the Mueller report. I know that a lot of MAGA just likes to highlight the section of the Mueller report that says we couldn't incriminate Trump for any personal wrongdoing. But then you won't talk about the fact that they did that to his lawyer. We'll talk about the fact that they still proved Russia interfered to help get Trump elected.
No, I just, The administration, Biden administration, if all this evidence was so damning against Trump, they would have used that.
Okay. I want to get your take. I'm going to play you a clip of Donald Trump admitting to sexual exploitation. I just want your honest reaction at the end of this. What we're going to do here is we're going to play the clip of Trump, and then we're going to play a clip of one of the women. Okay?
Powerful man. Right? You're a powerful man.
Right.
I want to sleep with you. Now, you're not the type that would say no.
I don't want to hurt their feelings.
Right. No, but I mean, you see a beautiful woman, you want to have that. You're a guy who likes to have everything, right?
Well, couldn't that be construed, however, as
conflict?
Yes.
Well, I don't see it as a conflict.
It could be a conflict of interest, but it's the kind of thing you worry about later.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You tend to think about the conflict a little bit later on.
The question is, how can it not be construed?
No, I mean, some of these foreign girls, Mr. Trump, in my country, we say hello with the vagina. And
well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And
here's the part.
Everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else, and no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
like
everything is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible-looking women, and so I sort of get away with things like that.
Came strolling right in. There was no second to put a robe on or any sort of clothing or anything. Some girls were topless, other girls were naked.
As Miss Arizona 2001, Tasha Dixon competed in the Miss USA pageant. Donald Trump owned the contest along with Miss Universe and Miss Teen USA for 19 years.
Our first introduction to him was when we were at the dress rehearsal and half naked changing into our bikinis. To have the owner come waltzing in when we're naked or half naked in a very physically vulnerable position, and then to have the pressure of the people that work for him telling us to go fawn all over him, go walk up to him, talk to him.
And Dixon.
So you agreed he's bad for manufacturing. We went over the worst jobs report since 03, the most manufacturing bankruptcy since 010. Agreed his tariffs aren't working. You agreed his senseless war in Iran is hurting you, making you pay significantly more for gas. Okay. GDP growth is down, investment in manufacturing is down, our country is suffering. Alright. He seems to be looking like a real bad guy from the Epstein files with a whole letter talking about some crazy enigma with Epstein wishing that he'd keep his merry secrets outlined by the naked body of a girl. Court found him guilty of raping a woman, even though you doubt the court. And now you're hearing a clip of this man admitting to sexual exploitation, like barging in the dressing rooms.
So I'm writing an essay on cats. Cats in art history. I'm an art history major, and this final is due on Friday. Same day, I'm going on a road trip with my best...
Of women and girls to look at their naked bodies? Imagine if, you're a woman, imagine that was you. You were at Kohl's trying on a dress. Floor manager, who's a man, walks up to your door, opens it up, oogles your naked body, then goes sits down on a public podcast and talks about how great you looked? Insane.
Yeah, I will agree. That's disgusting.
Why isn't that enough? It should be enough. I think that should be enough. We shouldn't have a president who does that to women. We shouldn't. And you said, oh, well, look at Biden, look at Clinton. If they did that too, fuck them. I don't care. I don't care. If our president is oogling the naked bodies of women unconsensually, sexual exploitation, including kids, by the way, he did this in Miss Teen USA. We had 4 teens come forward. Imagine if that was your little girl. Imagine that was your son. On 10-year-old girls while they're walking up the escalators. And on top of that all, he's destroying this country's manufacturing. It's unacceptable. No. I don't think that this is something that anybody should support. I mean, think about your grandkids. You're gonna have grandkids one day, right? If your son has kids, maybe you have other kids outside of your son. You're gonna be a grandma. You want to be remembered as a grandma who would argue this guy who, if he had the chance to in the 90s, would oogle the naked body of your grandkid if they were in the pageant room. you want to be the grandma that defends that, says he should be president, the most powerful man alive, or can we just agree that, like, no human, right or left, should support this kind of person to run our country? You know, just like, I understand that you've been living in the MAGA mindset for so long, since his first term. You even said that you saw a clip of him in the 90s on Oprah Winfrey. And it's just hard to change your mind overnight. But I promise, from an outside perspective, the belief structure in which you adhere to is perverse. And I hope that one day you see that. And you might even see it a little bit now, because you said that was disgusting. It's so disgusting. We shouldn't want that to be the most powerful man alive. I want him to be in jail for that. So disgusting, he should be in jail for it. Not president, regardless of it.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you believe in redemption? Do you believe people can change in 20, 30 years? Do you believe there is redemption?
So, I think that redemption is very nuanced. I think that you could be redeemed for some things. I don't think that you could be redeemed from others. And the things that you can't be redeemed for are because I think that rehabilitation from those things is nearly impossible. I don't think that you could be rehabilitated from sexual violence, especially in circumstances where it's so mask off. Like Trump engaging in sexual exploitation and calling it funny. Like, if you think, you know, infringing on the right of self-ownership, bodily autonomy, and consent of a woman to look at her naked body unconsensually is funny, you have some deeper underlying issue that makes you lack this core of fundamental value that I don't think could be redeemed. And even if we imagine this world where it could be redeemed, right? Well, they would feel so bad about what they did because it's so heinous and perverse to the extent it's one of the worst things a human could do that they'd probably say, I'm sorry, all right? Trump doesn't say I'm sorry. He's never held himself accountable. He's never apologized. He's never said anything like that. And even in this world where Trump did redeem himself, did change, did apologize, felt really bad about it, we should still uphold guidelines to prevent them from being the most powerful man in the world. Because guess what? Power amplifies you. It amplifies the characteristics of who you are as a person. And who knows? Maybe for a quote-unquote rehabilitated sexual violence perpetuator, it's going to amplify the same characteristics of that person that led them to engaging in sexual violence in the first place. But now instead of having a pageant to abuse people at, you have a globe to abuse people in. Recklessly implementing policy because you're pissed that is, you know, disenfranchising and bankrupting manufacturers and American workers. Starting a war in Iran because you're pissed, and now tomahawks are killing 160 schoolgirls. You know, going on a path of conquest because you're pissed and threatening to invade our allies. Go after Mexico, Cuba, Colombia, asking the military to go into Greenland. Right? You know, refusing to abide by a court order because you're pissed, and now for the last 12 days of the government shutdown, 12 million kids don't have food.
Now, there is so much fraud and shit in the government. Yes, kids need to be fed. I have a soft spot for elderly and the children. The government in general is screwed up, but I want to go back to when I asked you, you know, about redemption.
Yeah.
I don't know how old you are. You look fairly young.
Yeah, I'm 21. Did you kind of absorb my response to the question about redemption, though?
Yes, I did.
What are your
But
thoughts?
I will say, because I'm getting ready to be 53, am I the same person I was 30 years ago? Absolutely not. 30 years ago, would I see myself where I'm at now with my ideology or the way I believe and just think? No.
Do you think that would you ever vote for a child rapist if they raped a child 30 years ago?
No.
So no redemption for child rapists? Then why redemption for child sexual exploiters? Is it because Donald Trump is a child sexual exploiter. Redemption for Trump, because maybe you're experiencing cognitive dissonance and you are willing to attempt to rationalize the irrational to uphold a structure of belief for a man who shouldn't be supported?
No. What I'm saying is, there are, and we see it right here in our little hometown. Well, it's everywhere. You get someone in office or someone of importance, and all of a sudden, and I'm not downplaying women who get raped or molested or children that get raped. I'm not downplaying any of that because that is real and we all know it happens. But you have a lot of people that come out of the woodwork to try to destroy someone's reputation.
And if they want to destroy somebody's reputation because they were raped by them, I want to empower them to destroy their reputation.
No, I'm saying that people come out of the woodwork with these allegations, and we all know some of them might not be true.
We know this one is because he admitted to it.
Destroy people by saying things.
Well, he said this thing about himself.
Those things that he said, you could clearly tell on that clip that you played. He's bragging to be bragging. Yes, those girls did say he walked in, and that is disgusting. But I'm sure he's not that same person now. He's a grandpa.
Okay. So, you know who else was the age of a grandpa?
You introduce your buddy to DT of St. Louis. Whoa. He goes on.
Epstein. Epstein was the age of a grandpa.
Oh,
Here's another thing. Do you think that we should ever send people to jail for life? Because if you just think that people could be redeemed from anything, we should never imprison people for life, right? As soon as they're a grandpa, we should let them out, let them become president.
No, and you know that's not what I'm saying.
And I don't think that he's redeemable. I don't think he's redeemable because of how bad the action is, and I don't think he's redeemable because of the fundamental moral values in which led to him engaging in it, right? Like, and I don't think that even if he was redeemable, he should be president. People could be redeemed from bad things to the extent where maybe they work a job, they make an income, they pay their bills, and they try their best to flourish. I don't think people could be redeemed to the extent to be deserving of the most powerful position available to any human alive. That should be reserved for those that don't need to be redeemed for violent sexual actions.
No, violent. Where is the violence coming in?
Infringing on their consent to look at their naked bodies via the abuse of his position of power and the abuse of their position of vulnerability due to the fact that they had an expectation of privacy away from him that was infringed on. That is violent.
When I see violence in a different way.
You see violent like physical touch. Well, you think physical touch is violent because what? Physical touch could hurt people? Okay, well, so can infringing on somebody's expectation of privacy and position of vulnerability via the abuse of your position of power. Physical touch can lead to the same outcomes of pain and sorrow that infringing on somebody's consent without physical touch can. This is why